All right, everybody. So we're here to discuss Black Adam. Now, I'm OC.
I'm Chuku.
I'm Crystal.
And we've seen Black Adam this weekend. This is the opening weekend that we're having this discussion. And we'll just go through and we'll have our quick discussions, and then we'll maybe get into some of the weeds, some of the details on what we liked and what we didn't like about the movie. Generally, I'll go first. Generally, I enjoyed the movie. I think that the movie had a lot of fun aspects to it. There were a lot of great moments in the film. However, there were also a lot of inconsistencies in this movie, for sure. As high as the highs were, there were a ton of like really low lows. And so that's kind of what you're getting with this movie. Although for me, I will say my overall experience was enjoyable. So what do you guys think?
I mean, overall, I'd say this movie was a fail for DC. Not that it was like a polarizing, like this is like some horrible movie if you watch, it's disgusting. It's not like that. But I just feel like in the track record of DC, or the DCEU at least, because, you know, there's all these other DC continuity stories, I feel like this movie kind of brought things a little bit down. There definitely are enjoyable aspects for sure. I think that concept-wise, I enjoy the concepts that they were trying to do, as well as certain moments within the film. But yeah, the execution was just very messy, and it was just, to me, it's kind of sad to see it be kind of messy when there's so much potential.
Agree. And I'm going to snowball even further down because I know at least you guys enjoyed, you know, The Rock in it. But personally, I'm not a fan of The Rock. So like all the enjoyable parts for me actually just were painful to me. So I didn't really enjoy this film. I didn't hate it. I wish I liked it, honestly. Like, I don't want to go into a movie experience, especially a DC movie experience, and not enjoy myself. So trust me, I was trying very hard, but I just couldn't. But I mean, it's a movie. It's a DC movie. Like, it actually does kind of, if we're thinking about the DC track record, it kind of just fits in that place amongst them all perfectly, in the way that they're all kind of, you know, not the greatest.
That's fair.
Yeah, there's, you know, we all have our gripes. It's just, if you like The Rock, see it. It's fun. I can contest to that. If you are a Rock fan, this actually is the movie for you. I think people will find enjoyment out of it.
I would make the argument that the strongest part of the film was the Justice League Society.
Yeah, the Justice Society of America, JSA. I agree. They were my favorite part. I think the casting for Dr. Fate was amazing. Pierce Brosnan killed it. I also think, and I think this for all the DC films, the costuming department killed it.
They did a great job.
I think the suits on the DC side are great, and not just in this film, but outside of it. Like, I love Superman's suit. I like Flash's kind of like mech suit type thing, and then everything I've seen from the DC side for costumes, I've been really impressed with. Like, even Atom Smasher looked really great. Hawkman looked amazing. So I'll give it up to the costume team for that, because it looked really good, the costumes for me. So that was one standout thing. But yeah, I mean, didn't like it, but I don't feel strongly enough to like bash it. It's just, to me, it's just, this is just what I've come to expect from DC films now, unfortunately.
Come on, we're Imagine Blue. We're gonna trash this movie.
Let's
bash this movie.
No, we're not. I personally really enjoyed Dwayne Johnson's performance throughout the film. I thought that he was a bright light in the film for me. There were, like I said, and we can start to get into a little bit more into the details. I think the first 15 minutes of the movie were like the most painful for me personally.
Oh, the exposition, super heavy narrated exposition is the bane of my existence. So I agree.
It was just that opening with the back in the old days of Kandar, that's the city that this takes place in, and that whole sequence was just poorly done. And even up to when they go to modern day and they have the I don't even remember their names. So the female, the mom
and the
character,
boy.
The mom
and the boy
and the son
and the son
and the uncle
doing their whole thing of finding this crown, this which is a MacGuffin throughout the film.
Yeah.
The way that whole thing opened up, I was sitting there. I'm like, oh, we're in for a long. This is gonna be long and painful.
Yeah.
But for me, things kind of turned around once The Rock showed up. That's how I experienced the film. Once The Rock showed up, I was like, oh, okay, now we're having fun. And the way that The Rock was doing his thing, I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. Another thing for me that I feel like the director just constantly was getting in the way of this being a good movie.
Really?
Because some of the choices that were made, even the musical cues, I'm like, why are we listening to this music right now?
Yeah,
in the
some
middle
of
this
mixing and like the
slow
cues were
motion,
strange.
Yeah.
I agree.
this needless slow motion fight scene that just doesn't fit with the rest of the aesthetic of the film. It just, I don't know. I had a huge problem with a lot of the directorial choices.
Agree.
I
There was a
agree.
lot of slow-mo, especially in the beginning. He was like leaning on it as a crutch a lot.
Yeah.
Because like for Zack Snyder, he uses slow-mo too, but he's a very stylized director. He has a style. For him, it works, and we love him. But for this director, it just kind of felt like just tricks, like like just little director tricks here and there.
Yeah.
Like it didn't really feel like genuinely like stylish or cool. Like it's just them relying on it to try to be cool.
Yeah, to play on the director. Yeah, the choices were so weird. Like one scene that really stands out to me is like the scene where I think they're on is it not Hawkeye? Is it Hawkeye? That's the
Hawkman?
Hawkman, my bad.
Hawkeye.
Wrong place.
Wrong
year.
universe.
Wrong universe. So we're in Hawkman's ship, right? And then they're in the whole group, and there's like the crown there.
Yeah.
And they're all discussing what we should do with the crown. And in my moment, I'm like, wait a minute. You guys already put the crown inside the ship. Why are you having this discussion now? Shouldn't this be before the ship? So it's like things like that were kind of like messy.
Or just like the actual story.
Yeah,
It was
like
bad.
stuff like that where
Yeah.
it's just like it's kind of messy in that situation where it's like, why did you have this choice? There was a lot of directorial choices that were confusing. I definitely can see that this movie tried to be, and I think that's why I liked the part when The Rock came in, was like it tried to be more comedic. And I think the comedic aspects, although there was some of it that was super forced, anything that was with the kid, anything with the mom was sort of, I feel like some of it was so forced where it's like, I get what you're trying to make, but it's not funny. But when The Rock came in, that's when we had some moments where it was like, we need to use danger. Yeah,
It was genuinely
genuinely
to me,
funny.
it was genuinely funny.
Sure, like they pulled it off. It was a very like fish out of water trope.
Yeah.
He did it well. I feel like you can definitely feel the like Dwayne Johnson's influence on this film. I feel like he brought a little bit of like the Fast and Furious energy into this film.
Yeah.
And he's heavy-handed with it. Like I can tell, like I'm like, okay, this is not just any old movie. Like this is a Dwayne Johnson film, right? I feel like I said this before too. Like to me, it felt very much like parallel to like real life where like DC hasn't had the best track record, and it's like it's just been like all the well-known heroes so far. It's like, well, maybe we don't need a hero, maybe we need a champion, maybe we need Black Adam, maybe we need Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And I feel like it's a little too on the nose for me. All right,
Here's
like
the thing. I think that there's a lot of for this movie, the whole villain subplot didn't need to be there. The villain was bad, in my opinion.
yeah, what was his name?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the villain was bad. He didn't need to be there. They could have made this entire movie about the conflict between Black Adam and the Justice Society.
I
where
agree.
Black Adam
I agree.
is using these tactics that Justice Society doesn't agree with to free his people.
Yeah.
And he's doing it violently, and he just doesn't care. And the Justice Society is like, oh, this is what we stand for, something more than what you're standing for, and that conflict is there.
Yeah.
It could have been similar to Matt Murdock and Punisher.
Yeah.
It could have been something like that, where it's like, this is the central conflict of the film.
Yeah.
Instead, they had to have this whole subplot with the villain, and they had to have this major villain who, honestly didn't need to be there.
Yeah,
He didn't need to be
and
there.
I felt like that last act where he becomes like this, I don't know, demon from hell
Yeah.
thing was so forced, because even when they got to the point where they defeated him, which was like the most easiest way to defeat him, they're just like, okay, we slow-mo kills the guy. Even when they got to that point, it was just like, okay, everything was done. Like, it felt like the movie was done. It was wrapped. It was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And they just like, no, we have to have that final scene where there's this epic climax and the people come in. And it's just,
yeah,
it just felt
that
so
was
forced.
one big thing where it was like, didn't we have the same issue with Batman? But like, it's worse this time around, where like we were like, oh, like when is the movie gonna end? And it felt like we had the climax already, so it's like we didn't know like when it was supposed to wind down and things like that. And it's like, I think in an attempt to subvert us, it like, I don't know, it hurt itself, because it ended up still being formulaic. Like, you know, it was still, you know, the same as what we were expecting.
Exactly.
So, you know,
And
there was
you
that.
know, there's still some hope in my you know opinion, because the way that I see it, we know that based on the end credit scene, Man of Steel, Henry Cavill Superman, back in the DCEU, I said
The MCU.
back in the DCEU, he's back. They're planning on doing a Man of Steel 2, and they're also planning on having this conflict film with Black Adam versus Superman.
That's good.
Which they could, if they do it well, that movie could be a great like actual clashing of like philosophical ideas between these two characters.
Exactly.
And I think that would be a very good, you know, a very good way to do it. And the right director, the right writers could make that happen.
Batman v Superman, like round 2. So is Shazam just never gonna see this guy?
That will be an interesting one. They have to figure out a way to tie in Shazam into all of this. But we'll probably get some clues to that in Shazam 2.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's coming up.
In
the next. When is it coming out? It's coming out in the next few months.
I think it's coming next year.
Next year sometime.
Sometime.
So we might get some clues.
No, I mean, there's hope, especially too, because I mean, commercially it's doing very well. I looked at some stats. I think it's like for the opening weekend, it's on the same trajectory as what like Aquaman was, which was considered one of the more successful, like at least, you know, like earning money as, you know, one of the more successful ones in the DCEU. So yeah, I mean, Dwayne Johnson's undeniable. People love him, families love him, you know. He brings the people in. So I guess it was a good choice strategically to bring Dwayne Johnson into the fold. I mean, I just wish the movie was better and that I liked him.
I feel you. I think that we also mentioned the kid. He was one of the weaker parts. I mentioned earlier, the extreme lows of this movie.
But I honestly, going back to what you said about like the story should have just been between the Justice League Society and Black Adam. I felt like it would have been interesting to have that kid be sort of like, I would have loved the dynamic where like the kid is supporting, you know, Black Adam, and he thinks like the kid uses Black Adam as their way to get freedom, and there's sort of that debate where
they could have had something like that. I think that would have been an interesting way to go. If he was like he was a legitimate like fan who's like, oh, I like this, I like Black Adam, and the conflict between Black Adam and the Justice Society is like a conflict over like the hearts and souls of people.
Because again, the people,
this kid,
because the people have the point where it's like, you know, you guys are supposed to be quote unquote heroes, but then you guys
that could have been interesting.
Like would have been an interesting conflict.
And I think
it seemed like they almost went that route. It felt like
but instead what they did was like a pseudo Terminator 2 John Connor and the Terminator type. It was like that kind of relationship where it's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to say this catchphrase, and it just wasn't. It's not Terminator 2. Like Terminator 2 is one of the best action movies ever made. This isn't that, and the kid is just not a good actor. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately,
unfortunately,
weak.
I don't want to like bash on like because he's a real kid, he's a real person. But it goes down to the director. It goes down to the director. It's like it's your job to get the best performance out of your actors possible. That definitely was not the best performance that I'm sure you could have gotten out of that kid.
Taika Waititi would have never let that happen.
And if you knew that, you would have gotten a different person to play that role. It's just, come on. I don't understand that kid was painful to watch throughout this entire movie. I'm sorry. And even the mom, I didn't like the mom character at all. I think that those characters kind of just got in the way. I liked the uncle because I'm familiar with the actor. He's a great
Bias.
actor. Maybe it's bias.
Bias.
Maybe it's bias.
No, he was
But
actually legitimately funny. I
Muhammad
liked him.
Amer,
He got one
he's a
lines.
great actor. I like him. I liked him in the role. I thought he was funny. I thought he was cool.
He was the funniest character. I think.
Yeah. But everyone else that was not a superhero low-key sucked.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was like, and as much as I love the Justice Society, it was like almost like hard to side with them because they were being like willfully ignorant.
That's
to, like,
true.
Yeah.
Like I was like, why is it so hard to side with them? Like it should be a little more of like a choice for the audience to be like, oh yeah, like he's got points and he's got points, but like they kind of made the JSA like almost unlikable because of like they were kind of like Atom Smasher, especially, even though I liked him, was like messing up a lot, like almost crushing this and that person on the street. And it's like, these are supposed to be like professionals. We're supposed to kind of side with them. And like they were like personality wise likable, but just all, like their actual hero work was like, it left a lot to be desired. So it was like, that kind of like made it stray further from like the whole philosophical debate, like who's right in this. Like obviously like the JSA was like not doing their best, so I was like, maybe in this case,
to add on to
Adam's
that
better.
as well is that with like even Hawkman, right? Like his hate for Black Adam just seemed kind of
cartoony.
It seemed weird.
It was like so cartoony.
Yeah, like I didn't get why he personally didn't like him. It just seemed like, oh, we just have a different way of doing it. But he see it like, oh my God, this guy's evil. We can't let evil things walk by.
It was a little bit of a like machismo alpha male thing.
That's
like
what it
I don't
seemed.
know.
So I didn't get why.
Yeah, that's another thing is like we had such limited time to get introduced to like all these new characters too. I didn't think they did the best with like, kind of the heavy hitters. Like we said, Dr. Fate was kind of strange because when he puts, the helmet on, he's supposed to be like a totally different person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he was still like himself. Like he had all his faculties. He was still being a very like wise old man to everyone. I know you said you kind of explained it like, oh, maybe he's like a more seasoned Dr. Fate than we're like used to. Sure. Like maybe he has more control over it. But also with Hawkman, my gripe is like no one like what's his background? Like no one knows if he's like from Thanagar, if he's not human. I would have loved to like get a little bit of background on Thanagar and like Nth Metal. I'm like I'm a Hawk Girl fan, so like it would have been cool to just even get a little bit of like a background on Hawkman's abilities, and like it seemed like he was using like the wings were tech, but it wasn't super clear. So like I don't know, that was a missed opportunity. We got like a little bit of Atom Smasher background. I feel like he might have had the most background in here because we saw his predecessor.
Yeah.
And then, what was her name? Whirlwind or something?
Yeah, Whirlwind or something.
She was a cool new character, but
Cyclone.
I know. Her exposition was like, oh yeah, I was like kidnapped by some dude and da-da-da. I was like, dang, okay. That's how we knew everyone, was just little tidbits here and there where they could have fully fleshed out everyone. If they took some of the bad stuff out and want to put more good stuff in,
Okay, I'm actually curious because I remember you said this when we got off the theater, but like I'm just curious of everyone's opinion. Like, what do you think? How would you compare this movie to Thor 4? Do you think it's better than Thor 4, or
it's much better, in my opinion?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, but I want to hear Crystal's opinion.
I don't think it's much better. I'm trying to.
I
had fun with this movie. I sat through Thor 4.
Okay, so
that's what
I will.
is.
So
That's
for
what it
me,
comes down to.
I will say the highlights of this movie are better than Thor 4 in my eyes because I did like the fights, even though they were overly slow mo, and I did like the concepts, and I get what they were trying to do, but overall, like if I look at it from every aspect, this is just too messy for me.
Which one would you rather watch again?
I mean, I'm looking at, but I'm measuring it based off, bro.
That's what it comes down to. Is like, how much did you enjoy it?
I mean, I'm measuring it based off like for example, like what's to say we're comparing it like an Oscar movie, right? Where it's like maybe the Oscars may not be something you enjoy, but if you looked at it as a movie aspects where okay, this part was competent, like overall aspects of the movie, like I think as an overall film, Thor 4 is a better film.
Yeah.
But I will admit that I do enjoy the highlights of this film.
Okay, I think
is more.
I think that's fair, only because Taika Waititi is a better director.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
a better film. Like, just like looking at it for what it is. But I like at the end of the day, I think that the performances in Black Adam push it over the top for me for.
You just said that everyone who wasn't a superhero
I'm talking about
sucked.
the good performances. I'm talking about the good performances. In Thor 4, it's like, yeah, no, there was too much that I just didn't care for, and the movie itself was not enjoyable. The Black Adam, the movie becomes enjoyable because of the performances for me, despite the failings of the director.
Okay, that's fair. If I'm gonna speak my piece, I kind of agree with Chuku. Like, whereas the directing was not just bland, but like bad for Black Adam, at least Taika Waititi has style. And like, I personally am a fan of his style. If I had to choose one to rewatch, which I'm not going to rewatch either, but like, but if you were forcing me to, I'll probably rewatch Thor 4.
Really?
Yeah, because I like the performances in Thor 4. Like, I like Christian Bale's performance. I think, I know I like the child actor parts, and like not a lot of people did, but I think that's where Taika Waititi shines. Like, he does really well with like young actors, and I think like they were like the funniest parts to me. Like, it was just like fun to watch those. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'll turn my brain off and I'll watch this, and it's a spectacle. And like, I just, like I said, I'm not a huge Dwayne The Rock Johnson fan, so I can't say that I would just willingly watch Black Adam again.
I feel like for me it depends on my mood, right? Because I feel like for Black Adam, like all those scenes that I love, I feel like those are things I would watch on YouTube over and over again versus watching the whole movie. But at the same time, I wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be the worst idea for me to rewatch that movie. Versus Thor 4, I don't really like, I don't have like a favorite moment in Thor 4 to like, but at the same time, I don't like, at least I'm not gonna be bored with it. That's one thing I say about Thor 4. Thor 4, at least there's somewhat of entertainment. It's just that my biggest issue with Thor 4 was just the inconsistency with the whole Thor universe, where it's just this doesn't contradict all that, and then how this character gets all of that. So that was my biggest thing. So
yeah. Also, yes. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but I also find it weird that why is it so hard for these superhero movies to do gods right? It's like anytime they have a god, it's like they do these horrible, poor jokes, and then they do these philosophical arguments, but they don't really go anywhere.
And then like their actual like power, like it's unclear like how strong and powerful anyone is in like either universe. I feel like, but I guess that's a gripe for another day. But also personally, like just one choice that I hate, and I don't know whose fault it is, but spoilers, I don't like that they killed Dr. Fate. I'm like not into that choice. I think like we just got him, and he was the best part of the film, and we lost him.
Well, in theory, technically the helmet's still there. Well, okay, the helmet disappeared. Never mind.
Well, no, the helmet is still there.
It seemed pretty final, y'all. If they bring him back, it's gonna cheapen the whole thing.
No, they have to. It's not Dr. Fate. I mean, they killed the
body, the vessel, but
yeah,
the
but Dr. Fate is still
but it won't be Pierce Brosnan.
Sure, okay, fine.
That sucks.
That does suck.
Who else looks as great as Pierce Brosnan did in that film?
I mean,
I know. I don't think they're gonna bring him back. I think this is a segue to Zatanna. I think this is a segue to
shit,
which is fine. But like we just got Dr. Fate and we lost him. Is what I'm saying.
What if they just get all the other James Bonds to play other versions of Dr. Fate, and we get Daniel Craig to be the new Dr. Fate?
That was interesting. So, no lie,
we could do that. Or Timothy Dalton. That he could be a good Dr. Fate. He could just get all the James Bonds.
I would take Timothy Dalton in his Penny Dreadful era for Dr. Fate. Oof.
Yeah, I was gonna say no lie. I actually thought Hawkman was gonna be the new Dr. Fate when he died, and I thought
and then Hawk Girl takes over.
Something maybe.
Well, that would in these scenarios are the only way I will ever respect that choice.
I think that you kind of touched on this when we came out of the theater, but we. As like fans of the DC, we come in with some certain expectations and knowledge about the backgrounds of these characters, and it would have been cool to see Hawkman's death, just because his whole character with him and Hawkgirl is like rooted in death and resurrection.
That is true.
There's a whole lore behind that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's a whole lore behind that.
There's an episode in the second season of Justice League cartoon, right?
Yeah, and it would have been cool to have that kind of thing to explore with those characters. I would have enjoyed that, but they didn't take that direction. I'm not sure how deep they're going to go into it.
That's what I'm saying. That's my gripe. Like, no one had the opportunity to shine. They didn't give anyone the opportunity to shine except for Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and that was purposeful. I know it was. It's Dwayne Johnson's movie, and that's that. And I felt that the whole time throughout the film. It's like they had a perfectly sizable ensemble cast, not too big, not too small. They had the unknowns, they had the knowns, and like no one except for Dr. Fate, who died, shined.
Yeah.
Hawkman looked good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I guess last thoughts about this whole film.
Yeah, last thoughts. I am excited for the future. I think that there's a lot of possibilities with this movie. I know that through this movie, Dwayne Johnson had a lot to do with bringing Henry Cavill back into the fold.
Yeah, and I know why. So he could just beat down Superman.
He's not gonna beat down Superman.
Yeah, they're gonna nerf
No,
Superman.
he's not gonna nerf Superman. They're not gonna nerf Superman.
Oh, yes,
They're not gonna do that. I think Dwayne Johnson knows how to drum up hype. He comes from the whole wrestling world. He knows when he's the bad guy. He knows when he's the good guy. He knows who's supposed to win. Okay, he's not gonna have Superman nerfed. If that's not gonna happen. If that happens, then we'll talk about it. But I don't see that happening. But I think that through this film, I'm really excited about the future of the DC just because of Henry Cavill being back as Superman. Primarily, and also the possibility of the other Justice Society of America characters showing up later on.
No, I mean, yeah. Personally, I am happy about Henry Cavill coming back into the fold.
Yeah,
I will.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like the reason why OC really loves this movie is just because Dwayne Johnson was like, "Hey, let's bring Henry Cavill." So he's like, "Well, he brought my Henry Cavill back, so I'm gonna love my movie."
He brought Henry Cavill back. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so
I guess I do have to thank.
We have
Dwayne
to thank
Johnson for
Dwayne
that.
Rock Johnson. So we went through a whole hating to love you now. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you thought about the movie. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.
Peace.